Hello friends, welcome back to my channel Mukesh English, and this is Mukesh Soni. Friends, in this video we shall have the discussion of the model question paper of first semester BCom General English SEP syllabus from 2024 onwards, that is under Bangalore University. So before we go through the model question paper, let's glance at the question paper pattern, how the question paper will appear, what's the pattern. So your question paper is divided into the two streams here, two sections here. One is the section A, prose and poetry, section B, grammar. So section A, prose and poetry, consists the 8 lessons. Here you have 2 marks, 5 questions. So 8 questions will be given, and out of 8 questions you need to opt here 5 questions. Then 5 marks, 4 questions. So out of 6 you need to select here 4 questions. Then 2 marks, 10 questions, 10 marks, 2 questions. So out of 4 questions, you need to opt here 2. So 2 marks, 5 questions, 5 marks, 4 questions, and 10 marks, 2 questions. So this is how prose and poetry has the weightage for 50 marks. Remaining 30 marks, comprehension 5 marks, vocabulary 5 marks, active passive voice 5 marks, reported speech, phrase, clause, essay writing 5 marks each. So the whole question paper will have the weightage for 80 marks. Prose poetry 50 marks. Grammar 30 marks. What's the duration for the examination? 3 hours. It is not 2.5 2.50. It's not 2.30. It is 3 hours, because yours is the SEP syllabus, Karnataka State Education Policy syllabus, and from 2024 onwards you will be having the examination for 3 hours in all the subjects. So without much delay, let's begin the discussion of the model question paper, section A, prose and poetry, for 50 marks. Under section A, the part 1. So you need to answer here any 5 questions out of 8. Now this is the 2 marks question. Question number 1. What memory is associated with the mother Sari in the poem? The memory is here love, care, and the comforting memories of her presence. Second question, why does Stephen Spender feel the maps in the elementary school classroom are meaningless? Why does he think that these maps are meaningless? Because these maps do not reflect the harsh reality of his impoverished environment, and he sees those maps as the representations of a distant, privileged world that has very little relevance to his own experience and struggles. Question number 3. What is the author's attitude towards banking and finance in the short story, My Financial Career? So his attitude is something like humorous and self-deprecating attitude he has towards banking and finance, which shows his nervousness, confusion, and the lack of confidence in dealing with the financial matters. Question number 4. Write a name of the postmaster and to which place he belongs to. His name is Lakshman Tripathi. He belongs to Devgar, the Deoghar. Who is the Verger in the story, the Verger? Albert Foreman. Albert Foreman is the Verger in the short story, The Verger. Question number 6. Which crops are grown in Lancho's field? Corn and beans. Corn and beans are grown in Lancho's field. Then who said that most statesmen are rucks? So this statement has been taken from the essay Who Can Be Called a Great Man by Dr.B.R.Ambedkar, and the answer is here Clemencio. Clemencio once said that the most statesmen are rucks. What did the shepherd find on the ground? The shepherd found a dead rose. Shepherd found a dead rose. So these are the 2 marks questions. The next section from the section A, part 2, any 4 questions out of 6 questions, you need to opt any 4. And these questions have the weightage for how many marks? 5 marks. Now we are discussing here 5 marks questions. Question number 1. Mention the incident which turned Lily Villa in a haunted house, or why do we call Lily Villa as a haunted house? So Lily Villa became known as haunted house because of an incident involving the ghost of the narrator. The narrator had died in the house 3 years before when a stove which he was using exploded and caught his clothes on fire, burning him to death. After his death, he remained in the house as a ghost and he was unable to leave. 2 years later, a family came to stay in Lily Villa. One day, the head of the family accidentally saw the narrator's ghost. The ghost was not trying to be visible, but he had become visible for a moment because he was distracted. When the man saw the ghost with his burned face, he was so scared that he fainted. The frightened reaction made the people start to believe that the house was haunted house, and because of this, no one wanted to stay in Lily Villa anymore. And from that time onwards, Lily Villa was considered as the haunted house. Question number 2. Explain the two kinds of conflicts which are mentioned in the story A Letter to God. So we have two conflicts here, men versus nature and men versus society. First one is here, men versus nature. Lencho and his family depend entirely on their crops for the survival. Initially, they enjoy it when rain falls, expecting it to ensure a good harvest. However, the situation takes a tragic turn when a hailstorm destroys the entire crop, leaving them on the brink of starvation. So this conflict represents the unpredictable power of nature and its capacity to disrupt human life despite hard work and hope. Second conflict we find here, men versus society. The postmaster and his staff exhibit generosity and compassion by collecting money to help Lencho. However, Lencho, who was unaware of their efforts, he interprets the missing 30 peso as an evidence of dishonesty. He accused the post office employees of stealing that 30 pesos. So this conflict shows Lancho's inability to see the goodness in others, reflecting his blind faith in the divine intervention while distrusting human intentions. So this is about these two conflicts. Third question, write a note on the significance of the title My Financial Career. The title My Financial Career by Stephen Leacock is deeply ironic because it humorously exaggerates a very trivial banking experience into the notion of a grand financial journey. The word career suggests a long and successful pursuit in a particular field. Yet the narrator's so called career begins and ends with one disastrous visit to the bank. From the very beginning, the narrator's overwhelming nervousness and lack of familiarity with the basic banking procedures highlight his unsuitability for handling finances. For example, his insistence on meeting the manager alone for a routine task like opening an account not only alarms the manager but also showcases the narrator's awkwardness, turning a simple process into a very comedic ordeal. It has become a very comic scene. The humor of the title becomes even more apparent in the narrator's clumsy handling of the deposit and withdrawal processes. He nervously thrusts his crumpled $56 at the clerk, and later, by mistake, he writes a check to withdraw the entire amount instead of just $6. Overwhelmed by the embarrassment, he decides to close his account and permanently avoid the banks, keeping his money in cash and in a sock instead. So, this abrupt end to his financial career underscores the humor and irony of the title. By presenting a mundane incident as a grand career, Stephen Leacock highlights the absurdity of the narrator's anxiety, using humor to reflect on human insecurities in formal and intimidating situations. So, this is how we have shown the significance of the title, My Financial Career. Next question, describe the different children mentioned in the poem An Elementary School in a Slum. So, which are the different children are mentioned in this poem? In Stephen Spender's poem, An Elementary School in a Slum, the poet describes 7 children, each representing different aspects of poverty and suffering. Number 1, the rootless weeds. The first line speaks of children whose faces are compared to rootless weeds, suggesting that they lack stability or a sense of belonging. This image portrays them as a being fragile and neglected, growing in harsh conditions, unable to put down the roots or flourish. Second type of child we find here, the tail girl. The tail girl, which with her waked down head, refers to a girl who seems burdened, possibly by both physical and emotional weight. Her posture suggests that she is overwhelmed by the struggles she faces, perhaps representing the heavy burdens of poverty and or responsibility that children in slums often bear at a very young age. Third child, the paper seeming boy. The paper seeming boy with rat's eyes is described as very frail and very weak. His appearance almost translucent or delicate like paper. The description of his eyes as the rat's eyes conveys a sense of sharpness or survival instinct, yet there is a suggestion of malnourishment or and suffering. Fourth child, we find here the fourth child, the stunted, unlucky hair, HEIR. This child is described as physically stunted, possibly from malnutrition or illness, and the unlucky hair implies that the child has inherited a legacy of poverty or disease. The twisted bones refers to a deformity, and the child recites a father's gnarled disease, suggesting that this suffering is very generational, has been passing from parents to the children, to the child. Dreaming child, fifth one. At the back of the class, there's a sweet and young child who seems disconnected from the harsh reality of the slum. His eyes are living in a dream of a better world, imagining playful activities like a squirrel's game in a tree. This child represents innocence and hope, but his dreams are far removed from the grim surroundings. And in this manner, each child in the poem symbolizes the effects of poverty and deprivation on young lives. The poem poignantly shows the disparity between the children's harsh reality and the distant, unattainable world of opportunity and hope. Fifth question, explain the lamentable tale narrated in the poem Fidelity. Simple way, what's the story? Summarize the poem. Uh, the poem begins, I've given this question answer in a point wise, so it will be very easy for you to answer any question which appears from this particular poem. So answers may be lengthy, but I'm very much damn sure that these answers will help you to answer any questions from the poem. The poem begins with a shepherd hearing an unusual cry that sounds like a dog or fox. He investigates the source of the sound in a remote area surrounded by mountains, rocks, and torn small lake. The shepherd eventually discovers that the cry comes from a dog. The dog is not of mountain breed. Its movements are wild and shy, suggesting it is distressed or out of place. The shepherd wonders why the dog is there, and because there are no people, there are no sounds in the vicinity, then the location is described as a wild, inaccessible place far from any human settlement, roads, or cultivated lands, so nothing is here. This shows the loneliness and the isolation of the scene. As the shepherd approaches the dog, he finds a human skeleton on the ground. The shepherd realizes that the person must have fallen from the rocky precipice and died in that alone in that lonely spot. The shepherd recalls the name and the identity of the traveler who had passed through the area. He remembers the exact day the traveler came by and confirming the tragic events. The most remarkable part of the story is that the dog has remained by the spot for 3 months since the traveler's death. The dog's cries and the actions reveal its unwavering loyalty to its deceased master. The dog's loyalty, despite the death of its master, shows the deep feeling of sorrow and the admiration. The dog's devotion is portrayed as an extraordinary act of love, greater than what human can often offer. The central theme of the poem is loyalty and fidelity. The dog's bond with its master surpasses human understanding, illustrating a profound and the selfless love that remains even after death. Hence, the poem ends with a reflection on the dog's remarkable devotion. It suggests that the dog's love is an enduring symbol of loyalty, emphasizing the purity and strength of its feelings, which go beyond human comprehension. Next question. How far the Sari serve as a connection between the past and the present? The Sari represents the mother's life, her sense of order, and her love for the family. The folds and the care with which it is stored shows the mother's personality and the rituals of her daily life. The sari holds the memories of the mother's presence, like the scent of camphor and the incense, which shows the past and the mother's nurturing role in the family. As the daughter wraps the sari around herself, she connects with the past, feeling her mother's love and protection, which transcends time. The sari seems to grow as the daughter wears it, symbolizing the continuity of life and the lasting bond between the past, that is mother's role, and the present, that is the daughter's memories and the experience. The sari also ties the present to significant events like the father's absence and the realization of a dream, marking the connection between past and struggles and the present reflections. Even though the father is no longer around, the sari continues to serve as a tangible reminder of the mother's enduring influence, bridging past and present with love and memory. So these were the 5 marks questions. So out of 6 questions, you need to opt 4 questions. Now we are discussing here 10 marks questions. So 10 marks, you have here 4 questions, and out of 4 questions, you need to opt 2 questions. So friends, you have plenty of choices here. And moreover, let me tell you, I have done the videos on all the lessons covering the summary, 2 marks questions. Find all the videos links in the description box. Okay, no more advertisement. Now let's go to the next question here. 10 marks question. Critically analyze 3 tests of greatness mentioned by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar in the essay. Very tough question. In the essay, Who Can Be Called a Great Man by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, he examines the 3 tests of greatness suggested by 3 different thinkers. One is Carlyle's test of sincerity, one is Lord Rosebery's test of extraordinary intellect and energy, and the third one is here philosopher's test of divine guidance for social regeneration. Each test presents a distinct view of what makes a person great, and Dr. Ambedkar evaluates the strengths and the limitations of each test. Now, let's discuss each test in detail. First test is here, Carlyle's test of sincerity. Thomas Carlyle's test emphasizes sincerity as a core characteristic of a great man. He argues that a truly great person is not just sincerely aware of their mission, but their sincerity is innate and they cannot help being genuine in their actions. According to Carlyle, greatness is found in a person's sincerity of purpose beyond self interest. However, Dr. Ambedkar critiques this test, mentioning that sincerity alone is not enough to determine the greatness. A person can be sincere but still lack wisdom or insight, which makes them ineffective in solving the societal problems. Sincerity, which is very crucial, is just one aspect of the greatness. Now, second test is here, Lord Rosebery's test of intellect and energy. Lord Rosebery, in his view of greatness, proposes that a great person should possess extraordinary intellect and energy, along with a certain indefinable spark of genius. In this context, greatness is defined by an individual's intellectual capability and the energy to execute their ideas. Dr. Ambedkar acknowledges the importance of intellect, but also argues that intellect alone is insufficient. While intellect helps in understanding and solving problems, it must be accompanied by sincerity and more purpose to have a lasting impact. The moral purpose is here, it should have the lasting impact. Without a sense of social responsibility, intellect can lead to destructive outcomes, which could be seen in some historical figures who use the genius for the personal gain rather than societal benefit. This is the second test, and the last test is here, the philosopher's test of social purpose. The third test, which is derived from the philosophers, proposes that a great person is one who serves a higher social purpose and contributes to the societal regeneration. This test places emphasis on the social impact of an individual, viewing them as a catalyst for positive change in society, even if their actions involve negativity, for example, cleansing society of its ills. Dr. Ambedkar agrees with this test, highlighting that greatness is not just about personal qualities, but about the broader impact on society. In this view, a great man acts to improve and uplift society, often by challenging established norms and bringing about social transformation. So, these are the three important tests according to Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. This question is for 10 marks. Don't forget. Second question for 10 marks is here. Explain the trajectory of the protagonist through his actions and interactions as seen in the story The Verger. Trajectory means the path, the rasta. Albert Edward Foreman, the protagonist of The Verger or The Verger, begins his journey as the church verger of St. Peter, Neville Square. That's a position which he used to hold with dignity and pride. Despite his prominent role in the church, he is illiterate, and the fact is here, and this fact was never noticed, was have never been noticed by the previous vicar, who never used to, who believes that too much education is unnecessary. Albert Edward is satisfied with his life, and his identity is closely tied to his role at the church, where he performs his duty with a lot of care, with a lot of honesty, a lot of loyalty, and self assurance. What happens later? When the new vicar arrives, he is eager to modernize the church and he demands that Albert Edward should learn to read and write. He should be educated now. This request reveals a conflict between the tradition and change, because Albert Edward, despite his personal pride in his work, he is unable or unwilling to comply with the new demands. He doesn't want to read and write at this age, and he refuses. His refusal to learn leads to his dismissal from the church. It's kind of like a blow that shakes his sense of self-worth. So he's dismissed as a verger from the church. However, rather than succumbing to despair, in spite of accepting the despair, what he shows his resilience. He decides to start a tobacconist and a news agent business, an idea he stumbles upon during his walk of disillusionment. His entrepreneurial spirit thrives and he becomes successful, expanding his business by acquiring more shops. Through hard work and intuition, he accumulates a fortune which shows that his practical skills and determination are more valuable than the formal education. The story reveals a very significant shift in Albert Edward's life and his identity. Although he is initially dismissed as an inadequate due to his illiteracy, he proves that success does not depend solely on the formal qualifications. In the end, he reflects that if he had been educated, he would have remained as a verger, indicating that his success came not from formal learning, but from his life experiences and practical acumen. So this trajectory of his actions from a humble, dismissed church worker to a wealthy businessman shows the theme that practical wisdom and resilience can often outweigh the traditional education and status. So this is for 10 marks question. Now we are moving to another 10 marks question. Discuss the humor in the story My Financial Career and how does it elaborate the plot further? Very important lesson, keep in your mind. The humor in the lesson My Financial Career by Stephen Leacock arises from the narrator's nervousness, misunderstandings, and exaggerated reactions to the simple task of opening a bank account. The humor begins with the narrator's extreme anxiety about entering a bank. He feels rattled by everything the clerks, the sight of the money, even the bank's layout. This is humorous because he reacts in an over the top way to something most people would consider a normal situation, everyday task. His nervousness is so intense that it turns him into a bumbling figure, making simple action like opening an account seems like a monumental task for him. Is it not a humorous task? Humorous one. The narrator creates unnecessary drama by insisting on seeing the manager alone, a phrase which confuses both the manager as well as himself. This heightens the comedy because there's no need for such formality because the narrator feels it's crucial to add an air of importance to the situation. His behavior, which includes acting like he is hiding a big secret, creates a hilarious contrast between his intentions and the actual triviality of opening a bank account. So it's very unnecessary drama. At one point, the manager mistakes the narrator's nervousness for that of a detective. He thinks he's a detective, and the narrator inadvertently confirms it by suggesting he's not from the Pinkerton agency, implying he could be a rival one. This misunderstanding brings humor because it turns a simple bank transaction into a spy story, which is comically exaggerated interpretation of his anxious behavior. Next, humor. The narrator's incompetence at handling and banking process provides much of the humor. When he attempts to deposit his money, he's so nervous that he pushes it to the clerk in a very dramatic, in a very ridiculous fashion. His anxiety leads to further comedy when, in a state of confusion, he mistakenly writes a check for the entire amount instead of $6, which he would like to withdraw. But the most humorous moment occurs when the narrator, after realizing his mistake, decides to withdraw all of his money from the bank in a fit of panic. The exaggerated reaction, withdrawing every cent, shows the absurdity. His attempt to withdraw money in a very odd denominations, like he wants 50s and sixes, 50s and sixes, further also shows his cluelessness and makes the situation more funnier. Then the humor culminates in the narrator's decision to bank to never bank again. He says that I will never come back here. His experience is so overwhelming that he decides to keep his money in a sock, a simple and very comical solution to his fears. The irony here is that something as mundane as opening a bank account becomes so monumental, so disastrous event in his life, which highlights how he overreacts to the very ordinary situations. Hence, we can say that the humor in the story comes from the narrator's fear, exaggeration, fear, misunderstandings, incompetence, all of which lead to a series of comic situations. These elements help to push the plot forward by showcasing the narrator's growing discomfort with the banking system, ultimately leading him to avoid it altogether. The humor not only entertains but also emphasizes the absurdity of overreacting to a simple task. So that's about humor. Last question for 10 marks. How does Satyajit Ray evoke empathy for the ghost, and what emotions does the story elicit from the story I'm a Ghost? Satyajit Ray evokes empathy for the ghost in the story I'm a Ghost by creating a character who is both lonely and self-aware. The ghost, whose name is Sudhanya, he reflects on his past life and his tragic death, which leaves him trapped in the Lily Villa with no one to connect. His isolation is intensified by his inability to interact with the living without causing fear, despite his desire for the companionship. The ghost careful, considerate actions, avoiding scaring children, staying hidden in his abandoned room, contrast with the stereotypical maliciousness one might expect from a ghost. His loneliness is a key emotional trigger in the story as he expresses how he craves human interaction and the idea that the dead can feel such isolation, which brings a kind of a poignancy. The ghost's recognition of his own tragic situation and his desire for connection shows sympathy. When the family who comes to Lily Villa reacts with fear and the house becomes as a haunted house, the ghost own remorse and sadness deepen. He becomes more sad person, more disappointed. The ghost feeling of guilt about his appearance, leading to the abandonment of the house and the fact that he is essentially a prisoner of the circumstances, create a sense of vulnerability and sorrow. Besides, when the ghost hears of Narayan Sharma's plan to stay in the haunted house, eventually sees the precautions taken against ghost, the reader begins to feel a sense of frustration on the ghost's behalf. His world is disrupted, and for the first time he feels a threat, not from the living person, but from the spiritual realm it belongs to. The combination of the curiosity, fear, and eventual warmth when Narayan Sharma unknowingly shares a similar fate brings a story full circle. The emotions elicited range from sympathy for the ghost, loneliness, and his struggle with his identity as a spirit to amusement at his misadventures. The story's bittersweet tone, particularly in the ending where the ghost finally has company, makes it deeply emotional. It reminds us the universal need for human connection even beyond death. The ghost's eventual reconciliation with his situation and his acceptance of the new companion shows a theme of understanding, empathy, and acceptance. So these were the questions for 50 marks from all the chapters. So don't forget, I have done the videos on each and every aspect, summary and 2 marks questions. You can see all the videos links in the description box of this. So now we are moving to the section B, that is a language component, the grammar and language component for 30 marks. And in this section, we have the first question is here, comprehension passage. You need to read the passage and you need to answer 5 questions based on this passage. And the second question is here from prefix, from the vocabulary questions. So here the very first, each question is for 5 marks. 5 questions will be given here. So there is insufficient balance in the bank account, prefix in. And there's a preposition is here, the tree branches were lush and green and underneath stood the little boy. Then we have here homophones. Balu in the Jungle book talks about the BARE or BEAR. BARE, bare necessities which are minimal. Then the teacher asks the students to pay attention or to give attention, to pay attention. And one more question, did you hear that noise, or did you HEAR hear that noise? So these are the 5 questions you will get from the vocabulary caption or the vocabulary question. Next, another segment you have here, rewrite the sentences in the passive voice. You need to change active to passive. 5 questions will be given here. My kids are going to watch an action movie tonight. So, an action movie is being watched by my kids tonight. That's the answer. Gopal kicked the ball. The ball was kicked by Gopal. Veda wrote this beautiful poem. This beautiful poem was written by Veda. The pilot flew the plane was flown by the pilot. Our cat jumped over the fence. The fence was jumped over by our cat. So this is about the active passive voice. I have done special videos on active passive voice with all the rules and regulations. You can watch it. The links are in the description box. Then next question we have here, reported speech, direct to indirect speech, 5 questions. The boy said, "Hooray, we have won the match." It's an exclamatory sentence. The boy exclaimed that they had won the match. Won the match. The old lady told the girl, "Alas, my cat has died." The old lady told the girl with sorrow that her cat had died. She said, "What a sight it was." She exclaimed with joy that it was a beautiful sight. The neighbor told the mother, "What an adorable baby you have." The neighbor asked the mother, the neighbor asked the mother what an adorable baby she had. The last question, the teacher said, "What an intelligent boy." The teacher exclaimed about an intelligent boy. So that's about direct to indirect speech. Again, I have done special video on this one. You can find the link with all rules and regulation. You can learn in a better manner. So reported speech for 5 marks. Then we have here do as directed. So here you will be given some instructions, and based on the instructions, you need to change the sentences, clause, phrases you'll be getting here. 5 questions. Each question is for 1 mark. First one, walked to the park. Identify the clause. So I'll say here, this is a wrong question in the model question paper. According to me, the phrase walk to the past is a fragment. It's not a complete clause. So it does not have any subject, right? So to become a clause, it should have a subject. So I will say here the proper sentence could have been here, he walked to the park. So it's a wrong question, I will say here. And if we say, if we add here he, then it becomes a he walked to the park. Then we can say it is an independent clause. So if we make a correction here, we can say he walked to the park. Then we can say it's completely an independent clause. So the model question paper itself has an error. We can't help it. Uh, we won the match. So we need to add here the subordinate clause, and we need to make a complete sentence. So what we can make here, because we worked hard, we won the game. So we can say here, because we can add here the subordinate clause is here, because we worked hard. So what is the subordinate clause is here? Because we worked hard, comma, we won the game. Third question we have here, she has been studying for her exams all week. So we need to find here which is a verb phrase. So obviously the verb phrase is here, has been studying. Has been studying is a verb phrase because it includes the has and been along with the main verb studying. You need not explain. It's only for your explanation, understanding purpose. You need to answer only, underline it, has been studying. That's it. Question number 4. The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. So you need to find out here noun phrase. So which is noun phrase is here? The quick brown fox, the quick brown fox, and the lazy dog. There are 2 noun phrases. One is a quick brown fox. Another is the lazy dog. She is swimming. This sentence has a noun phrase. True or false? True. It has a noun phrase. She is swimming. It's a noun phrase, right? Then So this is about the phrase and clause, 5 questions. The last question you have here, you need to write an essay on any of the topic. Two topics will be given. You need to write an essay on any one of the given topics. I have not solved this question because the answer will be too lengthy, and moreover, the writing differs from person to person, right? So better, I'll suggest you when you prepare the answer to this question, you write the title of the essay, you divide your answer into the paragraphs, right? Every essay should have three important components. One is called topic sentence, content, and the conclusion. So friends, this is how I have tried to solve this model question paper of the first semester BCom SEP syllabus from the year 2024. So friends, if you have any questions, any queries, you can write in the comment box. You can also mail me at mukeshenglish@gmail.com. My video name is also Mukesh English, and my email ID is also mukeshenglish@gmail.com. And for all the other lessons, summary, 2 marks questions, you just have a look into the description box of the playlist. You'll get all the videos links. So I wish you good luck for the forthcoming examination. Stay in tune with Mukesh English.